in the first hour of the program. I want to talk, though, about men's health. And it's been the case that on average, women, they outlive men here in Australia. And the most recent figures from the ABS show the gap, it's around 4 years. So what's behind this discrepancy, and what, if anything, can be done to change it? This is the challenge for Dr. Alex Romain. He is tackling this as a working GP and the newly appointed chair of the Men's Health Group set up by the Royal College of General Practitioners here in Australia. Dr. Romain, welcome.
Thanks for having me, Rory.
Now, let's delve, if we can, a little bit deeper into life expectancy and what these stats say about men in Australia.
Yeah, okay. Well, it's interesting. These statistics have played out for decades, but really we're just beginning to look at them with fresh eyes. I think theories which have not been very well proven have justified the gap. So theories about the impact of testosterone not being as supportive for long life as estrogen, theories about the fragility of having a Y chromosome. And although there's bound to be some evidence there to suggest that could account for some of the life discrepancies that we're seeing, it doesn't really account for the 4-year gap that you've highlighted. And then other theories tend to relate to behaviour, also male behaviours. But what we find is male behaviours which play out in some countries and affect the impact, affect the life expectancy, don't tend to play out in other countries, which makes them contingent causes, which makes them reversible. And so what you're left with really is a third cause of premature male death, and that really is sort of a social aspects, and that is completely amenable to intervention. We don't know the relative interplay of all of those different factors, but when you look at life expectancy across the world, sometimes the gap is only 1 year between men and women, depending what country you're in. Sometimes it's 13. So why is it in one country you can have a gap of 1 year and in some countries 13 years? It doesn't really stack up if it's just genetics and testosterone.
In the Australian context, statistically, is the gap shrinking, or is it broadly staying the same at that sort of 4-year window?
It's improved over the last 10 or 20 years by a year or two. And you have to bear in mind that Australia is very lucky. It's an OECD country with the 6th highest men's life expectancy. So we're doing pretty well compared to other OECD countries. But 4 years is still a significant gap. And in a country as prosperous as Australia, we'd like to see it narrow.
Where does complacency come into this, Dr. Romain?
So I think we need to be careful about using words like complacency, because it plays into stereotypes we can have about men as being disinterested in their health. Men are interested in their health, but also they tend to present later to general practice when they have an issue. When you drill into why they're presenting later, it isn't because they don't care about their health. It's usually because they care about something else more, and they care more about their other priorities. And often those priorities are working to support their family. And often the trigger for men that do eventually attend is that the problem begins to impact on their ability to function at work. They're also often doing jobs that are difficult, make it difficult to see a GP. If they're truck drivers, they're away from home a lot, working 60 hours a week. That makes it difficult. So I think the self-neglect element to this issue is more complicated. Men will engage with healthcare, but it's difficult to make them see sometimes that if they're delaying seeing a GP, they might be making an issue worse and storing up problems for the future. So that's the messaging side that we can deal with advertising campaigns. And it's one of those reversible causes, that complacency. It's not a fixed male cause.
Christine, really appreciate your message. I can assure you, Rory, us widows don't wish it wasn't so. Christine, thank you very much for your text there on 0467 922 891. Keep your views coming in. You can always call as well, 1300 222 891. Dr. Romain, we've got a text here. This person asked, will the GP mention the much more dangerous work men do on average?
So men do riskier work, and we can choose an example of that which doesn't seem very risky, but driving long hours, that entails a lot of risk. So yes, we know that occupational risks are higher for men on average. We know that contributes to death and morbidity more as well. So yeah, that certainly is a factor.
Where does this group, tell us a bit more if you can about this group. What is it seeking to achieve? You're obviously the chair of it. What do outcomes look like for you?
So we need to work within a wider system that already exists. In Adelaide, you have the university there with Professor Whittert and Associate Professor Gill at the Freemasons Institute of Male Health and Wellbeing, as well as at Adelaide Uni. So you guys are offering a lot at the moment to men's health. There are other universities in Australia, like West Sydney University. There's a Centre for Male Health there. There is Movember. There's Healthy Male, which is a collection of GPs and specialists providing really good quality information to doctors and patients. So we want to embed ourselves in that wider network, and then we want to start building an infrastructure which teaches patients, teaches GPs, advocates to the government on male health and healthy care. What does an ideal system look like for men who need to access care at different times? What does the ideal consultation look like? And also, do we need some more time with men? If men are finding it difficult to come in for 15-minute consultations, does the current funding arrangement allow us to see them for longer, or is it penalising GPs who do longer consultations?
Just on that, and we do have Professor Gary Whittert on the program from time to time here on the morning show as well, Alex, and he's always good company when he does join us. Do you have a view on longer consults and the need for them?
Yeah, it's a problem for men and women. You need to bear in mind that 30 years ago, the average treatment for a heart attack was take a couple of aspirin and go home. Since then, we've had class after class of drug invented. We've had an explosion of blood tests that we can do, imaging. So medicine's got a lot more complicated. What we can do is more, and that's great, but the amount of time that we have to do all of these things and to talk to patients who are very well educated and health literate and know what they can get has not changed. So that's the only thing that hasn't changed over the last 30 years, of time and the funding, unfortunately. So I think we need to look at that, and hopefully that is another way we can build more into a consultation with men so they get more out of it when they visit.
That is the voice of Dr. Alex Romain, who is the chair of the newly established Men's Health Group with the Royal College of General Practitioners. It is almost 10:15 on 891 ABC Adelaide mornings. Alex, I want to ask you about this book. Now, from my understanding, there was a particular book that you read that really changed the way you understood this issue. What was it and what changed?
So it was a book by Richard Reeves. At the time, he was a social policy wonk, as he would describe himself, at the Brookings Institute in New York. And he develops an interest in men's health, in men's well-being generally. So he started to do a lot of statistics and began to realise that men had fallen behind in most domains of life and the workplace, and were finding it difficult to reach the milestones that their parents had or grandparents. And so he wanted to find reasons for that and also solutions to it. So he's come up with some very basic things that are common sense. So all the work that we've done for women in the last 10, 20 years to make it a level playing field, say in science and technology, by having education initiatives has been important, and they need to continue. And we want our daughters, our wives and anybody else in our families to have the opportunities that our sons and brothers do. But he's saying, actually, it's not a zero-sum game. You can do all of those initiatives for women, but also you can do initiatives for men as well. So if you look at the workplace for men, you don't see many of them in health, education and administration. So why is it we're doing STEM sort of initiatives for women when we're not doing health and education administration initiatives for men? So we can do both. It's not a zero-sum game, and it would be really good to see that sort of initiative in healthcare as well.
And Dr. Romain, you've spoken about longer consults, but what about access to consults in the first place? I want to pick up on this text here from Frosty. He writes, it takes an average 6 weeks to get in to see my GP. This is hardly conducive to addressing a health problem.
Yeah, there is demand across the system. Rurally, it's really tough for people, and it would be good to see more doctors coming into the system. I think part of the problem there might be not being able to access doctors in the evenings and weekends. I'm offering healthy male clinics one evening a week and one Saturday a month. So that way I'm trying to make myself accessible to people like Frosty. We don't know what his circumstances are. We don't know if he's a truck driver, and just it doesn't work with the way he's got to work, unfortunately. But yeah, certainly it's not unusual to hear stories like that people are waiting for weeks to see their GP.
Alex, a couple of other texts that have come through on this issue. This person writes, yes, I agree that some men don't take care of themselves. My brother has neglected his health, now is paying for it. Also, the impact upon families, that can be very difficult as well. And then Margie's written in on 0467 922 891. My brother died suddenly this year, aged 52, as a result of a heart attack. I later found out he refused hospitalisation when he was hypersensitive and had changes on his ECG. I can only say I believe men lack health literacy and have a great deal of fear regarding their health. How do you respond to a text like that, Dr. Romain?
I think she's right. I'm very sorry to hear it, but I think part of the issue here as well is men don't become engaged with doctors early on the same way that women do. So women tend to engage in their teenage years, and so the relationships are formed early on. And it would be good to get into a system where men are used to presenting to the doctor every year, maybe around their birthday, for an annual checkup. We can call it a warrant of fitness, and it would be good if at that appointment we mapped out their care for the next 12 months and said, hey, you haven't had a skin check in 2 years, it's time for one of those. Look, your bowel cancer screen is overdue, you haven't done that for 5 years. I think a lot of this will be solved with good habits, and habit formation takes time and it takes campaigning, and it needs to be a government priority.
Dr. Alex Romain, I'm pretty keen to hear how your work goes over the coming months and years. Let's keep in contact. Thank you.
Thank you.
Dr. Alex Romain there, chair of this newly established men's health group with Royal College of General Practitioners. It is almost 20 minutes